Okay, welcome back, guys. So today we're going to be working on creating textures for the boots. So uh, let's get started. So I'm just going to turn off the shadowing for now. Okay, so then I'm going to select the boot and then just isolate the sole. This is the boot sole boot. So the boot itself should be boot top. Can I move this up? No, I can't. Let me just turn this on. Okay, turn this on also. So I can actually visualize the both of them in there. So this is fine. And one thing you want to be careful of is making sure you're not working very symmetrical on this. Though for the base, you can work symmetrically for the base, but after that, you shouldn't be working symmetrically on this because each particular one has its own separate detailing of color variation around it. So, let me come in here first and then take this down to 2K. Okay, they're on 2K resolution. Let's see this also. Okay, 2K resolution. Take this also. Okay, this one is on 4K resolution. Let's put this down to 2K resolution. I'm taking everything down so that I can kind of just trying to optimize so I can work a bit faster instead of second sprinter. So I'm just trying to make sure this loads up completely and kind of stops before I continue. So it's done loading up. So back to this bootstrap. So on this bootstrap, I would like to work in 4K resolution for this. Okay. So on the layer, so let's start by dropping in some. Let's start by dropping in some basic material. So on this normal regular material, I just come in here and type in leather. Then let's try and figure out which particular leather to use as a base. This one looks kind of interesting. This one looks more interesting. So I'll just drag and drop this on here. Okay. This is definitely and no doubt a good base to start with, except we need to make some modifications to this. So let's go into the material setup. Open up this technical directory and let's see what we have in here. Don't really have there isn't so much control in here though. There's not so much control in here. Let me just put this all the way to 10 for now. Looks fine, but a bit too grainy. So what I would like to do is to come in here. Let's see if I can take Let's start by taking this normal intensity down a bit more. Now we're having an issue with this resolution. Let's take this down to 2K and back to 4K. Hopefully that fixes it. Man, this is going to be an issue. Let's try at 1K. Oh man. So I'm just using the undo feature and put this to 2K resolution. Trying to avoid having these cracks all over. Trying to avoid all this crack. That one doesn't seem to do anything. Let me take this down. Trying to avoid, I don't want to have these cracks all over. Let's see what we can do to fix. Well, I think I will just leave this as it is. Let me feel a bit off. Let me put this around 5 again. Okay. Yeah, okay, that's actually coming from this height range. Let me see if I can take that all the way to 0. Let's see what that gives us. Yes, more interesting. Now we have something completely flat, which is more or less like precisely what I want. Okay. Another thing I'd like to do here is to bring in the normal map on top of this again. So just turn everything off and then make sure the normal map, I bring in the normal map in here. So it should be, let's type in boot normal. Just to accentuate the normals a bit more. Something like this should work just fine. Okay. So now we have a base, but this base now we have to modify the base color. And I would still like to introduce this crack just a bit more. Just a tiny bit, like somewhere around there should be fine. Alright, that seems fine. Let's see if we can take this up to 4K resolution without any major issue. Okay. Great, awesome. So now let's modify the color for this. So I want to be using a color from this. So we're going to find more or less like a more darker tone to this. I think somewhere, no, something a bit darker than this should be fine. So I'll just come in here and then just push this. Not, that's way too much. Maybe a bit more. Something like this should be fine. This is a good base to start with. So now with this in place, I am going to I'll duplicate this layer again. On this particular one, I'll need to For the technical, I need to take this height all the way to 0. And I think this normal should be, let's try 0.4. Okay. So I'm still getting a bit of height in there though. Let me go back in here to the base. Put this on 0 again. Okay. Probably put this on 0.05. Because I don't want it to be very obvious. It should be there, but not very obvious, at least for now. Until I'm sure if I will need more of it later on. But for now, it should be at the BRS minimum. Something like this should be fine. So for this base now, I'm going to use a different color. So I'm just going to, let's see, probably the same color should be fine. So I'm going to, let's try, let me just do a copy for this again one more time. Hide the top one. Then for this, I would like to see if I can pick, let me pick a tone from the image. So I'm going to be using this bit of a brighter tone to it, something like this. Then take it down a bit more. Like somewhere around here. Then I'm going to add a fill layer, black marks, and add a fill to this. Now on this fill, I'm going to be using the BW spots something. Let's try this particular one. It's affecting the IPS. Let's turn off. You don't want this to affect the height channel. Should not be affecting the height channel in any way. So right off the bat, we have something even interesting to work with. So, but for the roughness, okay, there's a roughness channel to manipulate. For the roughness, let me just increase this ever so slightly, like so. So it feels a bit shiny, just a bit shiny. So now right off the bat, we already have something looking interesting. Like for some, this might even be your finished work, but for me, not yet. It's still a few or probably even a lot of things we can do and modify in here to get this to look even better. But right off the bat, we have something quite interesting to work with, which we can hold as another good base. So this is fine. So now we need to kind of add another variation of this on top of this again, which will be more of a, but this particular one should be more or less more hand painted, or maybe even a mask can still work though. The marks can still work, but the precision to this dark region, a marks might, just a normal regular marks might not do the complete job for it, but we'll see. So now that we have this in here now, I think we can do this for this base on top. So this particular one that we duplicated, let me just name this to probably leather mid-tone. Okay, leather, can we name this to leather dark tone? Leather dark tone. Okay, that looks fine. Then on this, I think this one should have, yes, on 0 already. So on this, we're going to be needing a more brighter tone, which is more like this yellowish tone on top of it. No, no, not really. A more darker tone. This yellowish tone will be like the finishing on top of it. That'll be like the finishing on top of it. But for now, we need a darker tone. We need a darker tone. This darker brown tone. So I can just reuse this. Only that I will just push this towards the black, maybe to black. Something like this should work. Now add the black marks to this. I think we can also add we can add a fill to this also. I think there should be a grunge map we can use for this. Probably leaks. Probably this leak. Something like this something like this looks interesting. Yeah, all of this looks, except this leak is just way too much. I guess. Let's see if we can find something. This one's looking rather interesting, so let's drop this in here. So again, we don't want this to affect the height, but for the roughness, yeah, we can just leave it the way it is for the roughness, or maybe just make it slightly rougher, somewhere around there should be fine. Maybe that feels a bit more, so I just drag this out a bit more. So let's check the marking for this. Let's check how the mark is affecting this. So I will see on the keyboard. This seems to be following the, let's check this also. This seems to be following the UVs. I don't want it to have to follow the UVs that much, though it looks interesting like this anyways. Let me turn this off. Though this looks actually interesting enough for us to actually keep. But for this, I think I'll need to change this up. So for the fill itself, on the fill itself, I'll put this to triplanar mapping. Then I'll hit, no, not, it's M first. Then hit C on the keyboard to go to the marks. And on this marks, let's change this up. Let's put a value of 5. Okay, and hit M to visualize this. Then what we like to do is to adjust the balance, almost like making it a bit stronger on top of it. Okay, let's try a value of 10. Okay, this is just one variation of this. Just trying to figure out if I should keep this or not. Let's try this. Now this looks and feels more interesting. Except for the rotation though. So I'm just putting it at a rotation of 88. This gives me a more interesting result. Because this particular one seems to be following a particular direction to it. So I'm just using the rotation to kind of adjust the direction to it. The direction for it. Okay. I think I might just keep this. We can adjust. Let's see if we can adjust the balance a bit more. No, that's way too aggressive. Shouldn't be all that aggressive on it. Looks like it should be fine. Then I'll just add a blur to it. Add a filter. Add a blur filter to this. Maybe increase the balance a bit more. Just to make it a bit more obvious in there. Okay. We would obviously need to modify this anyways. But for now, I think I believe we can keep some of this. So only thing I have to do now is just to modify this a bit more, kind of erase some of this. Shouldn't be very identical. Let's randomize this. Let's see what that gives us. Okay, it's randomize, but it looks very identical on both sides, which is almost identical on both sides. Almost identical on both sides. Okay. Let's try something in here. So for this, I would, let me just name this to leather darker tone. So what I'm going to do for this now is to put this in a group. Let me group this. Name this to dark tone. Into dark tone. Let me put this on right. This should be like for the right leg. I'll add the black marks to this. So I only want this to be affecting the right side. So which is this. So I will just come in here and make sure it's on mesh fill. The mesh fill and just select this. Okay. Then I'll do a duplicate for this. Then it should be obviously left. Put the black marks on this. Come in here and just select this. So now I'll just come in here on this left side. Select the grunge, and then I'll just hit random on this. That should give us a different outlook to it. So something like this should be fine. Then all I have to do now is to come in there, think probably on this max. Now go to my brush. I use dead brush for this. So hit X on the keyboard to put this on black. Then more or less like erase some of this out. Let me take this down a bit more. Just erase some of this out in some regions. You can see how it's affecting all this part. I'm going to use another marks to kind of drive that. Let's just erase some of this out. I think this we can keep. Okay, so I'm going to use the same color tone, Okay, so I'll just select this and I'll just copy this and let me just close this and paste this on top. So for this particular one, I'm going to erase just add a black marks to it. Add the black marks to it. Then I would just do this instead. I would add a generator in here. In the generator, I'm going to use the curvature instead. Okay. It seems to go a bit overboard. One more thing I like to do is to kind of change up the color tone a bit more, kind of lighten it a bit more. Like so, should be fine. You can see it's affecting too much of the boots, which I don't necessarily want it to. So you can do one of two things. We can either paint this off, or maybe even do the two of them. You can either paint it off manually or go to the settings for this and manipulate this until we get our desired results. So let's start by doing the easy parts. Yes, always go for the easy part first. Very important. So I can come in here and then just change this global balance a bit more. Okay. Let's see where it's been affected. It's actually affecting the precise places I want it to. Maybe with this on, you can come into this dark tone left and dark tone right and even take this down a bit more. Maybe, let's see. Okay. This feels, it feels just about right. Because you can see in here now, you can see how those darker tones are on these folded regions, which is more or less like precisely what we want. So I'll just come back in here. Let's see if I adjust the balance a bit more. That looks slightly too aggressive though. Then we need to blur this out a bit more. Spread it out again. Like so. Then I will need to add yes, I need to add a paint layer to this. I can actually erase some of this out. So I hit X on the keyboard and I'll begin to erase some of this. I don't want it to be everywhere per se. So just take this down. Feels generally too aggressive in here. Let's take that down. That should be fine. I think this seems just about fine also. Let me just gently blend this down. For this other side, I think I'll erase this at the edge here. Let me erase this at the edge here also, something like so. I'll keep some of this. The front parts, let's just take a few out, like so. The back part, most of this has to go. Alright, this we can keep. I think this one also, some of this have to go, especially on the edges. Right, so I don't want it to be too broad out. Mm, let me lower this down. Let's see. Yeah, I think this value should be fine. So now we can now add one more thing on top of this, which is this brighter yellowish tone on top of everything, and then kind of break, you need to break the surface even more. Um, right, right off the bat, we already have something looking quite interesting. Alright, so we would okay, yes, I'll just duplicate this again. Add the black marks to this tone should be this, no doubt. I have a few ideas in mind of what to use though, but I feel okay. I don't know. Let's just try a fill in here first. Let's try a fill in here first, and let's use the BW. Is there a depth bronze map for this? Let's see if we can. Yes, this looks quite interesting. This looks interesting enough for us. Let's try this on. Okay. Shouldn't be affecting so much of the entire thing though. So for this, let me just add. It should be a bit more reflective. Let me just push this around here. Right. But this is just all over the place though. So I would uh no, it doesn't. Let's see. Let's just modify this a bit more. It doesn't feel right yet. It doesn't feel right yet. Let's try planar mapping for this. Let's tighten this up. Let's try a value of 10. Okay. I don't know. Let me take this. Let's take this down. This just feels all over the place. Let's try something. So add another fill layer to this, and on this fill layer I'm going to use the cloud. I'm going to use the cloud for this. Let's see which cloud. Let's try this one. And I'm just going to do a multiply for this. Then I'll invert, yes. Yes, I'll just do an invert for this. So let's just check the marks. Let's see how the marks is affecting it. So this is the marks in there now. So we can increase the balance and kind of hide it even more. So it's appearing on only selected parts or procedurally maxed out parts. Let's see. Contrast. Now we're not adjusting the scale. Let's see. So let's turn this. Let me pull this all the way to 100. So let's try randomize this and do that. Again, I don't want this to be very identical. So let's just check this max again. I'm trying to avoid having anything identical in here. Okay, they are not so identical. Let me try this random again. Okay, hit M on the keyboard. This we can work with. Let's see, let me just turn this off. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is with this on, we're going to drag this down all the way below this dark tone right and dark tone left. So you can have those darker tone kind of covering some of those, also like another additional marks on top of it. Let's see. So I turn this off now. We can see how that breaks up the surface even more to give us a bit of a slightly interesting look to it. So I think this should work just about right for this. Yes. Okay. So except maybe for just one thing. So we need a more obvious one in there. So I'm just going to, I'll duplicate the same layer and I'll drag it all the way up. Before I get undo that, let me just name this to leather bright. Just name this leather bright. Then this one, I'll just duplicate this. I'll carry this all the way up. Nothing can stop me. I'm all the way up. Okay, all the way up now. So I'm just going to max this out. Then I'm going to use a max to drive this. So I'll go to the smart max. Go to the smart max in here. I'm just going to use, there's something called stain scratches. So drag and apply this on here. So that should give us even a more interesting result to this. Yeah, something like this, which we will definitely need to modify. And this can also add, this can also add like a, so I come in here, I'm going to, I don't know, can I adjust the, let's add some height to this. The height intensity looks way too much though. Height intensity feels way too much. So I'm just going to, I'll go to the height channel in here and I'll just take this down. Shouldn't be all that, it's digging in, perfect. Shouldn't be all that aggressive in there. So then we would start adjusting and manipulating this. So I'll go to the max. Put this back on base color. Let's visualize the max for this. This is the max for this. So don't want this to be affecting, should be affecting everything. So let's just take this global balance down a bit more. Let's see what we have. Okay. check this mark one more time, increase this, slide this down. Let's see if this does anything. Let's try this. Way too much. Let's put this all the way up. Okay. Let's see what we have in here. It is looking quite interesting. Okay. Oh, right. So I'm going to add a paint layer to this. Maybe instead of adding a paint layer, let me just, don't know. Wait, this is on triplanar mapping? Should be on triplanar mapping. I'm actually using the max in there, so. I think, I need to adjust this a bit more though. Let me just add another fill layer on top of this. This fill layer. Let's use this cloud 3 instead. Then I'm just going to put this on multiply. So that should kind of max out some of this excess breakup we have in there. Okay. So I don't want it to be too aggressive. Let's come back in here and then increase the balance a bit more. Okay. Okay, that kind of adds the max that kind of adds some variation to the visibility of it on some region. So this is fine. I think I'm just going to leave this as it is. So I'm going to work with this. So one last thing I like to do is for the sole. So I think I'll just copy. Let me copy one of these. I should just copy. Let me just copy this instead. I'll just copy this leather darker tone. Now go to the sole. Delete this, and I'll just paste this on here. I would add a white mask. Okay. Push this all the way to 100. Then make sure, I think I should have this a bit darker. Maybe it's too dark. Put this all the way to 0. All this all the way to 0 also. This I'll take all the way to 20. Should be a bit tighter. And I'll put this to triplanar. And this should be, I think, more darker. I believe should be darker than this. And a bit more shiny. Let's see if this, maybe not too shiny. So Something like this should be just fine. You can see how we didn't do too much of hand painting on this. We just kind of work with procedural textures instead of substance painter to kind of recreate this boot from the reference. So this looks fine. So I'm just going to fire up after this I'm going to fire up the render and then kind of visualize the entire thing as a single piece. Show all. Okay. Let's introduce some shadows to this. Probably try something somewhat of a studio setup. Let me try this Macro Studio. Okay. So let's fire up our renders and let's see what we have.